All right. Hey, everybody. I hope that you are having a fantastic night, and I'm really excited to be here for another one of our fantastic authors and to do an EduLaunch Edu Party. I do all the things. And so I have with us tonight Dr. Kevin Leichtman, and he has just released a phenomenal student voice-centered book. And I'm so excited to hear about it tonight. So Kevin, for anybody who potentially doesn't know who you are and might have been living under a rock, can you please give us a little bit of information about what you do?
Thank you so much. I'm Kevin Leichtman. I was a middle and high school teacher, so I've taught every grade level from 7th to 12th. I'm a college adjunct at Florida Atlantic University, where I received my master's and PhD. I direct academic mindset, so I do some work in mindset and education. And I am also the co-founder of TLC Educate with my wife. So I wear a lot of hats in education. I'm kind of all over the place, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I love it like that.
That is awesome. And just tell us a little bit about your book and show us that amazing cover that you have.
Oh,
I absolutely love your cover.
They did so well with that. So this one's got the author thing there, but I was so happy they were able to include the faces of all 10 of the students in the book. Like, that is just so cool to me. So the Perfect 10 is my way of showing the value and the importance of student voice. And I stayed in touch with a lot of my students, and I get back to them, and we started having these conversations like, what was your school experience like? And especially now that you're out of school, like, hey, tell me, like, how did it go? What were the good things? What were the struggles? And the stories I heard were overwhelming. And I'm like, how did this not shape your school? Like, why weren't we doing things about this? What could we have done to better serve you? And that started leading to conversations that ended up in this book, where my students started really sharing with me, there were real present challenges and barriers, and at every level, from our parents, from our administration, from our teachers, and even pressure from our own peers and ourselves. And we had to wrestle with all these at the same time just to graduate, just to be successful. And a lot of people didn't look at us with any value. Like, they just, oh, you're not going to graduate. You're probably not going to get there. Or maybe you are, but you're not really living up to your potential. And all of those crushing statements that they had to overcome to become who they were going to be. And they were honest and brave and so candid. And I'm so thrilled I got to share their experiences and get their voice out. And it makes my day that I'm just blessed with this opportunity.
That's so awesome. I actually have goosebumps right now by listening to you explain it, because that's, we sometimes teachers take the time to ask students while they're in school, but it's a whole nother level to bring back the kids who have graduated and actually ask them, like, what was your experience like? How can we do better? Because there are so many times where, although we are doing our best, we could have done better. And some of that is in recognizing the relationships that we can have with the students, because clearly you have good relationships with these students if they came back to even talk to you afterwards. Some of them run from school as far as they can.
And I wouldn't blame some of them. I'm just so grateful they've kept me in the loop. It's really an honor.
Absolutely. All right, so let's jump into some of your book questions here, because I love asking these questions. So we're going to go with the first one. Why did you write a book with students instead of about them in the Perfect 10?
Sure. So a big part of this is really living out my own thesis and leading with my educational philosophy, right? I always say that student voice is important. If I wrote this same book and I didn't interview any of the students and I said, I'm just going to tell you what I think their experience was, I would be nullifying everything I really believed as an educator, right? The thing that's most important in my mind is that their voice comes to the top, and that my role is to just elevate their voice and get it in as many places as I can. So I was just thrilled that, I asked 10 students and all 10 immediately, yes, I'm on, let's go, let's do this. And I'm so thankful because their voice is what matters. And a lot of times we don't see that play out, right? And we see a lot of teachers and, well-intentioned parents who will say, yes, my student's voice matters. Yes, my child's voice matters, but it doesn't play out in reality. So it was just such a great opportunity where I could say, no, like, I will put your quotes directly in this book. It will be your words. I'll set the stage for you. I'll make it pretty, but you get to say what you really experienced. And they all took it and ran with it. I can't tell you who my favorite chapter is because every day I wake up and I'm like, you know what? That was really powerful what this one said. And this one just rocked me. So it means so much to me that they were an active part of this project and not just the subject of it.
Yeah, that is awesome. And we make a lot of assumptions, don't we? When, when you have books with stories in them where it's about students, we're making a lot of assumptions, and even in those situations, because everything's from our own perspective. And not that that's a bad thing necessarily, because we get the perspective of the other teachers, but it does take it to a whole new level when you actually, you bring in the student that was there and ask them how they were, actually feeling versus how we were perceiving them feeling, and how we, perceived their actions and what it showed. So that is amazing. I love that.
Thank you.
Okay, so next we have, the book is titled The Perfect 10. And I don't know if nobody ever sees kind of the behind the scenes of setting these up, but when when we were working together to find the questions that we wanted to go through, I absolutely loved this question. It's a phenomenal question. So the answer is going to be even better. The book is titled The Perfect 10. What is the perfect student? And were all of these students considered the perfect ones?
Well, let me give you the perfect answer, I hope. So I really wanted the reader throughout this entire book to focus on the idea of perfection, right? Because I think where we as adults get it wrong, and it passes on to the children so quickly, no matter what role you're in, is we all have an idea in our head of what the perfect student looks like. And that definition is different with everyone you ask, but we all have that definition in our head. We might not say it out loud. We might not think about it actively, but we know what we want to see in a classroom. We know how we want students to behave, or, what kind of things we're expecting to see from them. And it's so arbitrary and has nothing to do with their talents and their skills and building them up so that they can be the person that they are meant to be. So I really wanted to play with that word perfect. And I do that throughout the entire book. And I constantly redefine it myself in the book as I go along. And I challenge the reader to take that journey with me, because we really need to consider if our definition of perfect is harming ourselves and other people, right? And I know that from personal experience, because I thought I was a horrible student. And that played out in my life for a long time. I was a very bad student for a while. I barely graduated from high school. I dropped out of a college and I failed out of a college. But I'm sitting here with a PhD. So clearly I had some kind of potential or capability as a student, but I never fit myself into that definition of this is what it means to be perfect. So, I'm looking at these students, and are they all considered perfect? If you ask me, yes. And I defend their perfection throughout this book. And it's really up to you to say, do you agree with me? Do you agree with my thesis? Do you think that these students could be considered perfect students? Because I will tell you, they don't look like your average perfect student as a traditional teacher, a traditional parent might define it. So I wanted to make sure that we're consciously thinking about that term. What is perfect? Can this fit? And do students need to change, or does our definition need to change?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Yes, on so many levels. Like, I don't even know where to start with that because it was the perfect answer.
Thank you.
And I also think, you know, the definition of what we would typically give as the perfect student is not realistic. Because it's very compliance based, right? It's very, well, they're quiet and they do their work and it's done well and they put in a lot of effort. You know, it's like it's very compliance based.
Yeah. How many times did they raise their hand? You know, like all those things. Yeah.
I'm going to give them 20-second wait time. Did everybody use the wait time? You know, like it's all of those types of things. And really this definition of or this idea that anybody is perfect is sort of a problem in our society, you know, just in general, because it stops us from really kind of embracing all of our imperfections and the things that make us us.
Absolutely.
All right.
And that's so nice of you. I'm seeing the comments, by the way, too. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And the other thing too, that just so you guys know, if you comment, if you make comments, it doesn't matter if it's in Facebook or it's in YouTube, you can go ahead and make comments. And then at the end, we're going to pick 2 people to win books out of the comments. So go ahead and put your comments. If you are a Facebook user and you have not okayed StreamYard, just please put your name at the end of it so we know who you are. And at the end, when we pull 2 names out of the comments and you could potentially win a book, then we will then you can contact Kevin and we'll get you that book as well. So the more you comment, the better chance you have to win, because I just scroll through and we choose. So keep commenting, and we will be giving away some books at the very end. So lucky for us, we have a guest knocking at your door. And so I'm
excited for this one.
We're going to bring on this guest, and I'm super excited as well. And so we're going to bring in Justin.
Hey, Chad.
Justin.
How you doing, Coach? How you guys doing?
Great, thank
Good.
you.
How are you?
I'm good, very good.
Good. Justin, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what your connection with the book is?
All right, so I am Justin Piccolo. I am a state and nationally certified firefighter EMT. I was in high school with Kevin Leichtman. Thank you. He was my wrestling coach. He was my mentor throughout all of high school. I was 1 match away from states my senior year due to a lack of so close. I was also a regional qualifier for swimming as well. And academic wise, I was a state qualifier for DECA.
Wow.
The trophy on hand and everything. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You just had to reach right out of screen and it was right there.
And I was also in a bunch of other clubs. I was the historian for Best Buddies. I was in DECA. I was in National Honor Society, Mu Alpha Theta, SAD, a whole bunch of other ones. I can't, on the top of my head, I can't remember.
And you did all that while working too.
I was, yes. And I work at Publix as a stock clerk.
That is amazing. Well, we're so happy to have you here. And what is your connection with the book?
My connection with the book is definitely throughout the book itself is basically saying who are the perfect 10. My job for the people out there is to understand that even if you want something, you got to go for the extra step. That's how my mentality was throughout high school. Even if I was doing wrestling or swimming, I feel like people had a thing like, oh, here's this guy, he doesn't worry about his academics. That's why I joined DECA, and that's why I wanted to show him that actually I can achieve higher expectations by state qualifier as a DECA for DECA.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted it. So just whatever you want to go for, always look for the extra step. That's how I live my life.
That's awesome. And so, Kevin, tell me a little bit about why you pulled Justin into the book as one of your students.
Sure. A lot of what I was doing is I, crafted this book, and I thought, like, who should I be putting in this, or who should I even approach? And I was thinking a lot of the perceptions that people have of someone versus what they're actually living out and what they're doing. And Justin was so fascinating to me because a lot of teachers, a lot of the adults in his life would be like, oh, he's kind of immature, right? And they would look at him like he's kind of irresponsible, not because he was, but because he kind of looked the part, because he was relaxed and he was calm. And well, maybe not so calm, like, you know, sometimes a little hyper, you know. I don't want to go too far with that. But the point is, he didn't seem like he had his act together. And then when you actually sat down and talked to him, you would see not only does he have goals for the short term, he had this very long-term picture of his life. He was telling me when he was struggling to figure out wrestling and, you know, he was getting kind of knocked around, he already had a good idea that I'm going to go be a firefighter. And I am doing these things to prepare myself. I know I'm not tough yet. I want to become that. And I watched him go through that progress as people would kind of make fun of him, or they would kind of get on him like, oh, you know, he's not really there. He's not really going to do these things that he's saying. And I'm secretly kind of watching him from the side, like, I know he is. I'm watching him go through that process. So, you know, the trait I really wanted to highlight from him is just his patience, because he kept not only doing what he needed to do, but like you said, doing that extra, no matter what people said or what people thought. And it blew me away.
Oh my gosh, I'm like tearing up a little bit here. So, because Justin, repeat again what you do for a job.
I'm a grocery store clerk, but I'm also in the process of becoming a firefighter EMT. But right now I'm actually in paramedic school right now.
Right. So you're doing exactly what you said you were going to do, probably plus some, huh? Yeah. That is awesome. I'm so happy for you. And what do you think, like, how does it feel when you hear that teachers thought that maybe you just didn't quite have your act together? Like, how do you respond to something like that?
Honestly, I was having fun in high school, and I really didn't care what people thought of me. So I was in powder puff. I literally wore like booty shorts and everything in front of the entire school. Just to show
it was a sight.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
No matter what is going on, just make sure you have fun. And I'm just all I was doing is set an example of just telling everyone to have fun, and you know who you are as a person. And that's how I really didn't care what people thought of me. I just had fun throughout the high school, and I just wanted to strive for even more.
That is awesome. Well, Justin, it has been such an absolute pleasure to speak with you, and I'm so happy to see, you know, where you are now and where you're going. And one of my favorite things, I think, is when, you know, it seems like we may potentially underestimate students a little bit, and they do exactly what they say they're going to do plus more. And you know, that's just such an awesome thing to watch and to see. So I'm so happy for you. And I hope, you know, potentially maybe I hope to meet you through the publishing company. I hope not to have to meet you as a paramedic, because that's not typically how people want to meet. Yeah. But you know, it's thank you so much for being involved in Dr. Leichtman's project. We really appreciate you.
Of course, and thank you.
I really appreciate you. Yep.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you so much. Great to see you.
Great to
Thank
see
you, Justin.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
I love that kid.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was not expecting, I'm like trying to wipe my eyes and not make it obvious, because I was not expecting to get all like that. Okay.
Oh, we're going to get further in. So just, you know, if you need to like grab Kleenex for a minute, that's okay. Like, we'll be all right.
Yeah. Heads up, everybody. You may need Kleenex, or if you use toilet paper, because that's what I used to use before I understood that Kleenex was invented. So, anyway, so we're going to move on a little bit. We are actually to my absolute favorite part of the show, and that is the author reading. So for the author reading, what happens is our authors pick a piece out of their book that they really, really love. I can imagine this was so difficult for you to pick out one little piece. And they are going to read it to us to give us a little taste of what the book is like. So when you're ready, you can take it away.
Awesome. So, yeah, my wife saw me struggling with this today. I didn't know what to read, what to do, but I thought I would just give you the start of a chapter, and I really loved Camillo's chapter. So we're just going to dive right in. And the chapter is called Learn How to Be Optimistic with Camillo. And here's a quote from him. Tough times were only as temporary as I made them. If I wanted to change where I was at or what I was dealing with, then I needed to make changes in my life. Every day is an opportunity to be great. Optimism is a vital skill to extreme success. It is nearly impossible to reach a result that you cannot imagine happening. When goals become challenging and insurmountable, odds loom. The only hope for success is the ability to remain optimistic. This mindset skill is not limited to just looking at the bright side of things. Optimism can become a character trait, symbolizing a confident belief in the potential of good coming from any situation, whether seemingly good or bad in the moment. For this student, optimism made the difference between accepting mediocrity and reaching for greatness. Meet Camillo. From the eyes of my 5'6" frame, meeting Camillo was akin to standing in front of Andre the Giant. His demeanor fit the same description. Camillo was a towering presence, but his temperament was kind-hearted and calm. A smile was a permanent fixture on his face. He was loaded with potential in school, sports, and life. Many were fooled by Camillo's positive attitude, not because his persona was fake, but because it led them to believe that his life was perfect. How else could a guy be this happy? An outsider would believe that he never endured any form of stress or pressure. They didn't realize that Camillo's attitude was a choice. Had he dwelled in the negatives of his life, his path would look vastly different from where it took him. By choosing positivity and acting on it every day, he elevated himself to a level that very few believed he could reach. Positive through pain. Camillo described his childhood as being a family-oriented, Hispanic Catholic upbringing. He was brought to the United States by his parents as a mere 1-year-old. They had planned the move to the States to provide their kids with a better education and, more importantly, a better opportunity to succeed in life. Despite his parents' best efforts, this move would prove disastrous on his young childhood. He was constantly uprooted as his family moved from place to place. He and his sister often took care of each other while his father worked 2 jobs and his mother worked a full-time warehouse job. Then at times, his father became ill and unable to work, and even tougher times loomed. He explained, "I can remember the days where people from our church would come to visit my family and bring us food because we didn't have enough money for food. But one thing is for sure, my father never quit." At a very young age, he understood that their life would not be easy. Nobody could hide the struggle that his family was in as they settled into a new life in a new country. To add to their challenges, his father was constantly ill and fearful about his health. Camillo said about the experience, "I learned life isn't all sunshine and rainbows. I didn't get to experience the joy that most kids had growing up. Rather, I was constantly on my toes, prepared for the worst possible scenario." He had to prepare himself at a young age to step up and fill the responsibilities of his father if need be. Still, Camillo found ways to remain positive about this tough childhood despite the odds. He was deeply involved in the Catholic Church, where his dad took pride in taking him and his sister every Sunday. The pinnacle for his father at church was when his kids became altar servers, and he was able to see them worship. The emphasis on faith allowed Camillo an opportunity to bond with his father and learn from him as they worshiped together. He also looked back fondly on what his parents would sacrifice to give him a sense of normalcy. He said, "One thing I always appreciated about my parents is that every birthday they made it a mission to make sure we had a birthday party and invited our friends. These events would make daily difficulties much more manageable by providing a beacon to look forward to." Along with those happier moments, his family instilled in him the values of God, family, and education. This guiding philosophy helped him to stay focused, enduring throughout the many challenges he faced.
That is awesome. I love that. And why did you pick that passage in particular?
It stood out to me because, as we're talking about the perfect 10, it starts right with, this is a guy that everybody on the outside looked at as a perfect kid. And they didn't realize what he was, not just what he had to overcome, but what he was overcoming on a daily basis to provide for his family and help provide for his family and take care of his family just to ensure that they could survive the planet, let alone thinking about, he's got to actually go to school and, do his job there and to be an athlete. And I mean, his story gets so much better. Like, I love that story, but when we talk about, is this the perfect student? He's one that would really fool a lot of people because on the outside, you would say, yeah, of course he is. Look at him. He's got his act together. But nobody saw what he was going through at home. And he didn't want to, burden people with that because he always wanted to look at the next opportunity and keep moving forward and keep pushing to that greatness he wanted to achieve, which he is achieving.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen a lot of that during the pandemic as well, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, just from the standpoint of students who have had to pick up extra things at home in order to, make ends meet for parents who may have gotten laid off because of the pandemic or something like that have a lot more going on at home than we can even see. And to the point where for a lot of people, that would be the thing that makes them quit. Quit doing school, quit doing the things they're supposed to do because, the whole idea that they have to provide for their family at a very young age. And so I think that that's relatable. That's what it was making me think of as you were reading that, is stories I've heard from teachers during the pandemic of students having to do those types of things just because of what's needed at home. So let's go on with our questions because I'm excited to hear more. So right before we met with Justin, we talked about what your idea of the perfect student was and the definition of perfection. So then what would your definition of an imperfect student be?
This is where I think I get not in fights with teachers, but I definitely have some, some like back and forth and in the teacher's lounge all the time. I always feel like an imperfect student is the student who's trying to model after somebody else. And they're ignoring their own unique strengths and the things that make them who they are. And as a teacher, I mean, and this, we see it all the time. You see people trying to just fit into whatever the box is. And some people can do that very quietly and kind of get away with it and coast. But for the most part, what you see is them losing their own potential. And they're losing the things that make them who they are. And I know that because I was that. Again, that reflects so hard on what my experience was looking at these students who I thought were perfect because they took 8 pages of notes every class, or because they would go home and do homework first before anything else. And I was like, I'm not that, so I'm not a good student. So the imperfect student is the person that thinks like that, that's always worried about what is everybody else doing? Why don't I look like this? Why don't I sound like this? Why don't I act like that? And when you're in that boat, that's where I find the imperfect student. That's where I quarrel with a lot of other teachers because they'll say, no, the imperfect student always talks in class and they're always annoying. No, I disagree. I think those students are phenomenal. And I love seeing a student embrace who they are and get comfortable in their identity and comfortable in their role as a student and find their own unique way to approach school. I can deal with any student who's that. But the imperfect student who's just putting on a show and acting, that's the one that hurts me the most because I know that they're not who they want to be and they're not who they're meant to be.
Yeah, that is awesome. So your definition of imperfect really goes with their authenticity.
Yes.
And that can be hard for kids at middle school, because I know you said you taught middle school and high school, but that can be hard for kids at especially that middle school age when their number one is just fitting in. They don't care how they have to do it. They just want to belong. And so that authenticity piece can be difficult.
Right. And I think that's where the teacher's role is so important. I don't want to be the one to crush that. I don't want to be the one to say, oh, you need to fit in, but you also need to fit into these class rules and these norms and these expectations and this and that and the other, right? I want to be the one that says, I know you're trying to figure yourself out. Here's space. Use your voice. Tell me what you're experiencing so that we can work through it together. And together we can figure out what is your identity as a student. Instead of me saying, you need to fit this little box, you can tell me what kind of student you are within this, and then the box keeps tightening as they get older. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Absolutely love that. And the comments are going wild with people agreeing. So thank you so much. We do have another friend that's knocking at your door.
Yes.
So we are going to invite her on. We have Miss Emily Gonzalez. And so we're going to bring her on here. Hey, Emily, how are you?
Hey, Em.
Hi, I'm good. How are you guys?
Good, thanks. We're so glad you're here. Thank you for being here with us.
I'm so happy to see you.
Oh my gosh. So Emily, can you introduce yourself to us just a little bit so that we know who you are?
My name is Emily. I had Mr. Leichtman freshman year and also
Mhm.
senior year.
Senior year, yeah. Mhm.
Senior year too. But I wasn't always a school person. I've always been kind of like street smart, I would say. Like I would always, I'm a hands-on person. I learned like from
Yeah.
experience. I learned like from doing stuff, but book smart was never my thing. Mr. Lyman knows that. I never, like it was always hard for me to keep like stay motivated in school. And he was one of the reasons like why I graduated. He always pushed me. He's like, I know you can do it. I know you can do it. When in myself, like I didn't have that like, no, like I'm not good at this. I don't know how to do this. But having that push like really got me through it.
Thank you.
That is awesome. Emily, I want to just ask you, just out of my own professional curiosity, because we hear this a lot. Students that think that they're not school students. Okay, what define for me how you would who you would say like explain to me a school student. Like how do you see that type of a student?
Being always in school, like I always struggled. I don't know if it was like with the focusing or like kind of understanding like everybody else, like I would see like they would get A's on their homeworks and like they would be like involved in the class. I'm like, I don't get it. Like I didn't get that from them. How did you understand that? I was always just like, felt like I was always in the air. Like
She was a lot like me. You can see why I liked her.
Yeah, and yeah, such a beautiful smile. Like honestly, I could watch you laugh all day.
She is so warm-hearted. Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about what your connection with the book is? Like what, how did you get involved in the project? What was your role in the book?
Honestly, Mr. Leichtman he told me about it. It was just an honor, honestly. Like, out of all, he had so much students, like, out of everyone, it was just an honor that I was chosen one of them.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
Why do you think he chose you? Or he asked you?
Well, he knows, and I've told him this many times before. I'm one of the students that he did encourage to graduate and encourage throughout the whole school year because he saw potential in a lot of us that we didn't see in ourselves. And he knows that because I told him so many times, like, you're the reason why I graduated.
I keep telling her it's all her, but
I just needed a little push,
Yeah.
So Kevin, what made you choose Emily out of all the students that you've had? Why Emily?
So she's a person that, again, teachers would look at her and be like, this is definitely not the perfect student. And, they would say that by data. They'd look at her grades, they'd look at her test scores and be like, this is not the perfect student. And I could see her so clearly trying with all her heart to not just be a good student, but to be a good human being. And her kindness really shone through. And that's what her chapter is about, is kindness. Now, why did I take an interest in Emily in particular? She used to come and clean my desk and take care of my room. And then she would see other students struggling in my class. And she'd go lift them up and boost their spirits and give them a big smile. And, hey, you can do this. Even while she was struggling with the content. And there's a lot of students, busy teachers, right? There are a lot of students who kind of go unnoticed. They go under the radar. But somebody like Emily, because she was so kind and so generous, it brought people to her that could help her with the thing that she wasn't very strong at. But there are so many qualities that she was strong at, and that allowed her success. And I was seeing it not just in school, but, she would get a job, and then she'd call me a week later and be like, yeah, so I got a promotion. And I'd be like, how did you get a promotion already? She'd be like, well, I was really nice, and I knew the first name of everybody, and, I made everybody feel important. So I'm like, you have a life skill that so many students don't have, and they might have a 5.0 and not have that.
Yeah.
Right? And that skill needs to be recognized and placed with as much importance as, the book smart student. And that's why I saw her as a perfect student.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. We have a lot of, super know how to do school book smart students who don't have those kinds of empathetic behaviors and interpersonal skills. And so that is definitely something to celebrate you know, and because it'll get you so far, sometimes so much further than the kids that could do their chemistry homework perfectly, you know. Yeah, absolutely. And I just have to say, Emily, we have a lot of people in the chat who are very concerned about you being in a car. Please, you're not driving, correct?
I am not. I'm not.
Okay. I actually had to type in there, I don't think she's driving, because they're like, make sure she's driving carefully.
No worries.
I'm like, nope, she's good. She's not driving. It's okay.
She's as responsible as can be. You don't got to worry about her.
I'm not the best at.
That's a lot of multitasking.
I'm not driving.
Well, thank you so much, Emily. It was such a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for being here.
It was my honor. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
You know, just a fun fact about her. She was the first student to ever call me by my first name. And I thought it was so funny. She would only do that in the hallway. And then when she would go in the classroom, it's Mr. Leichtman. Because like she wanted to show me respect as a teacher, but she also wanted to be like, hey, you're also my friend because you've got my back and I've got your back. And I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, what a sweetheart. I love, it's not often that we have students actually on, you know, a lot of times there are other experts, which are all awesome as well. But we don't get to bring on students to talk to them. So I am absolutely loving this.
Can you imagine how fun the interviews were?
Oh, I cannot.
Oh my goodness. It was great.
Were all of the students post high school when you interviewed them?
Yes. That was one of my rules before I even started thinking about this book and like how I was going to play it through, because I didn't want to have a current student who might feel pressure to, you know, be on board with the project, or maybe they have to say something a certain way because I'm going to see them in school the next day. I wanted them to be able to be as honest and candid as they could possibly be without having to, like, you know, go into the school the next day and, you know, face some of the people that might read it. So, so that was like one of my first things. I only talked to students who were already graduated.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And did you have the students all 4 years, or at least like knew them all 4 years and taught them at some point? Were all of them your students at some point?
So it's kind of funny. I've known all of them for a very long period of time, but all in different kind of relationships. So like Emily, for instance, I taught her twice. There's another student in the book, Dominic. He's the second chapter. And Hillary also. The two of them I taught in middle school and high school. And I knew them for like 7 or 8 years. And I taught them multiple times. And then there was even one student in here, her name was Hannah, who was not a student of mine, didn't go to the same school, but she was a wrestler for the club that I coached at. So I worked with her for many years on the mat, and we spent so much time on the mat talking both about wrestling and about academics, and, you know, we stayed in touch afterwards. So, you know, between coaching and teaching, I've been involved in all of their lives for years. The roles are kind of different for some of them, but I think that's what made it fun. I tried to give this book a lot of variety, and, you know, I just wanted to show, like, here's what a student experience looks like from many different lenses, and let's really take a deep dive into that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. And I actually love that there's a variety in how you know, the different relationships that you had with students, because even from the standpoint of academically, you're the student, I think you said Hannah, that you coached, instead of knowing them from the academic standpoint. That's a really interesting, that's a very different dynamic and interesting relationship as well. So I love that you know, that's just a little bit different. So that we have students, we have student stuff, we have teacher stuff, we've probably got parent stuff in there. Who did you really write this book for? Like, who's the audience that you're looking for?
Right. So if I break that question down, the audience would really fit into those 3 categories. Students, parents, and teachers will all read this, and I am very confident they will get something inspirational out of it. They will get something actionable, something that will help them to get on a step to thinking about themselves or others in a stronger light. But who did I write this book for? Students. Because it's their voice that I wanted to bring to the front, and it's their experiences that I wanted to highlight. The only reason I'm in this book is because their experiences echo a lot of what I went through as a student as well. Now, the reasons are very different, but we've all been through that struggling student kind of mode, or dealing with things that maybe other people don't see that you're dealing with. And that's who I wrote it for, are students who can relate to that feeling. So if you're an educator, if you're a parent, you will love this book. You're going to get a lot out of it. But if you ask me, like, in my heart of hearts, like, who did I really write this book for? I want students to be able to see themselves represented in a novel and say, wow, I'm a part of this. And I think they're going to relate so much to the characters in here. And they're not just fictional characters. You see, they're real people.
That's awesome. So how can you see, like, students, I feel like this book would be very motivating for students who feel like they're not seen as who they really are. But for educators, how can you see educators using this book in the classroom?
So when you think about what your current student layout is, and I'm willing to bet, I wouldn't bet money, but, you know, I'm willing to bet.
Never bet money.
No. Every teacher who's in this chat right now can probably confirm this, that you have an idea in your head, whether it's your idea or ideas that other teachers or security guards or administration has said, who your problem students are. And you also probably know who your best students are. And I'm putting these in big air quotes, all right? So everyone can see that.
Yeah. So for anyone who's just listening and not actually looking at us,
giant air quotes
all over the place.
So we know that as educators, it's no secret. The students know it too, right? We know who the problem students are, who the bad kids are, and we know who the perfect kids are. My thinking is, when a teacher opens this book up and they see the experiences of somebody like Justin, who struggled at first and then found his way through, or Emily, who struggled all the way through but still had this shining talent that helped her succeed, or even our next guest, who had like a 5.0 and they didn't realize what kind of pressure was on him and what it took for him to maintain that kind of level of efficiency. I mean, any of those kind of situations, teachers are going to go back to their classroom and reevaluate, who are my bad kids really? Who are my good kids? Who's the struggling one? And it's going to almost force them. If you read this book, you know, I'm not going to say it's going to force you, but it's almost going to force you to look for the strength in all of your students. And if you do that, you're going to have a better experience as an educator, because instead of looking for the problem, you're going to be looking for the thing that you can build up, that foundation that's going to help the student succeed at an even higher level. So that's what I'm looking forward to, when teachers hit that aha moment where they're like, oh, I can reframe how I look at these kids, or I can reframe how I talk about them in the teacher's lounge, which might impact another teacher in a positive way, which now makes a student who wouldn't have been as successful skyrocket.
Do you have a mic? You probably need to like drop it. Do you have a mic that's just
I don't know if this is going to really have the effect.
Mic. That's not the same kind of mic, but we'll use it because it's the only one we got.
No props. I can't believe I wasn't ready.
Well, that is awesome. I mean, honestly, like people again are just going nuts in the chat. 100%, so powerful. And that's what it's really what we can hope for and what we wish for, right? Because we want, we should want for our students the same things we want for ourselves. We want people to be able to see us who we authentically are. No matter what we have going on behind the scenes, even as adults, we want that. But sometimes we don't give that same grace to students, and we take them for exactly who they show up, and we perceive them as they are. And I absolutely love the idea of reading a book that says, hey, have you looked at your kids lately? Like really looked at them. And is there a way that you can look at them differently potentially than you are right now? I absolutely love that. And Sarah thinks you need a mic drop as well. So we are
I'll be ready next time for sure.
Yeah, for your next book, make sure you have a mic. So we have one more question, and I would like you to answer before we bring on your next guest, who I'm super excited about. What other projects are you working on right now? Like, what else do you have going on?
So I'm only half of Team Leichtman. My amazing wife is also Dr. Leichtman, and together we started a consulting company, an educational consulting company. It's called TLC Educate, the TLC, Team Leichtman Consulting. I think it's catchy. And we are building out courses and professional development. We've already got some cool stuff together, but we are going to be releasing fairly soon in the summer. Look out for this. The TLC method to education. It is going to rock. And that's all I'm going to tell you about it for now, because, got to keep that excitement level high. But my wife is brilliant when it comes to pedagogy and curriculum. And I am just, not just as her husband, but just as an educator, I'm so excited to work with her on that project. And it's a joy and a blessing.
That is awesome. And I'm hoping that as part of your publishing company that you at least let me know what it's about, so that I can be, because I want to be in on the secret.
Oh, I'll let you in. Don't even worry.
All right.
Yeah. So you'll be on the ground floor.
All the rest of you. Yeah. That is awesome. I'm so happy for you. Now you also have, do you have like podcasts, and you've got a bunch of stuff going on. So what else do you have going on?
So we just started a YouTube channel. We are going to start a podcast. That'll probably be up in the next month. So we're just, we're taking it one step at a time, but we're doing about 80 steps. So, we're excited about that. We also direct academic mindset. So we partnered with a sports mindset training company, and we provide academic mindset training services. So we coach students. We work with, parents and teachers on how to maximize the potential of students and really tap into their mindset. So we definitely have a lot balancing just between those two things. And that's where we're really pouring our hearts and our energy into. It's what we love.
That is awesome. So Sarah, and for those of you who don't know, Sarah Thomas is our CEO of EduMatch Publishing. And she's asking—
She's amazing.
She's one of my favorite people in the world. So is Mrs. Doc going to write a book like Mr. Doc? #DocSquid.
I will tell you this much. She has a phenomenal dissertation that is just itching to be turned into a book. I'm telling you, it's there. The potential is there, and I don't know. We're gonna find out.
Yeah, that is awesome. Awesome.
Lots of teasers, right?
Yeah, no doubt. This is crazy. I can't wait to hear more. Okay, so we're gonna bring in your last guest. He's been like patiently knocking at your door, like just knocking. And so we're gonna bring in Zane. So here comes Zane.
Hey, buddy.
Hello.
That ruined so nicely. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Thank you. Weren't allowed to have these back in my day. Good. How are you guys?
We're awesome.
So tell us a little bit about who you are, Zane.
So yeah, basically, I'm just a normal person, just like anyone else, and the values and morals that I put above and beyond are just work ethic and working hard, striving for opportunities and things that you want. You can be successful in anything you reach, and I think that I'm just a person who can kind of make these part of my aura as I go through life and hopefully touch the hearts of many people that I meet.
That is, I love that. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. That should be the goal of everybody. Like
that should be the mission.
Yeah, the mission of human beings in general, I think. So what are you doing now, Zane? You're graduated, and what have you been up to?
Oh, so currently I'm almost there. I'm in my senior year of my computer engineering degree over at Florida Atlantic University. I'm currently maintaining all straight A's, of course, as Dr. Leichtman would like no other way. And I'm one semester away from finishing that.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
Even through a pandemic.
Thank you so much. Small obstacle.
Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing. So obviously, how did the pandemic go for you as far as being in college and stuff? Was it okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So the transition was pretty smooth. During my senior year of high school, I was actually a fully online student in Broward College, obtaining my dual degree. So I had my associate's degree before I even got my high school one, and that was all mostly online, as it may be, because you're on the high school campus during the day. So it was good. So I was used to online classes, and the transition was smooth.
Wow.
Thankfully.
So hang on one second. You had your associate's degree before you had your high school degree. Tell me more about that.
So basically, I believe the two paths you can do, like heading into your like upper class levels in high school, is you could do dual enrollment or early admissions. I think it is, and early admissions would require you to drop high school and basically finish all of your credits along with college over at the community college. But for me, I knew that if I were to do that route, I wouldn't be able to wrestle my last year. And wrestling, the team, Dr. Leichtman, all my friends, they were important to me. They were my family. There's no way I could just up and leave them, right? So, of course, so I chose dual enrollment, and I said, okay, I'm just going to take more credits. I had finished my high school credits by the end of my junior year, and I said, I'm just going to take double classes over at the university and try and get this AA done in this last year while I wrestle and while we make the dream happen.
And he did.
Then I did.
Wow.
Fortunately, I did.
Wow. I'm speechless. Dr. Leichtman, you know such impressive students. That is, all three of the students have been incredibly impressive. So I don't even know what to say about that. Congratulations about only having one semester left. That is awesome.
Thank you so much.
So tell me a little bit about your connection with the book, Zane. Like, how did you feel about being asked to do it? What were your thoughts on the final product, that type of thing?
Of course, yeah. I have to start by saying that I believe the relationship I have with Coach Leichtman is unparalleled. He could ask me to move a 1-ton weight across the river, and I would do it no questions asked, because
I might have asked you to do that.
You might have asked me to do that. I know that the way his mind works, it's always going to be for the greater good. So when he asked me to do this book, I was honored and I was floored. And I said, absolutely, anything I can do to help, that's what I have to do, of course.
You wouldn't have even asked why. I think I would have asked, why are you having me move this across the river? Like, you
no,
really not even why.
he came up to me with the why. He just called me up and he said, Zane, I wanna have the opportunity to share your mindset. And, I want to get your story out there to other students. I want them to know that the things you do is achievable. And I absolutely agree. There's no other better way I could have put it. Anyone can do anything. Anyone can achieve anything in life by putting in a little work into it, by believing in themselves. And so to share my story out there, I was so humbled and honored. So I had to, of course, we had to make this project come alive. And I was so excited from the moment he told me.
That is amazing. And Dr. Leichtman, tell me a little bit about why you chose Zane.
Oh my gosh. And it's nothing to the honor it was for me. Oh my goodness. I saw Denise Cruz, by the way, shout out. I love that kid. I do too. He's pretty cool. That's his mom. The reason I chose him, and he's the last student chapter of the book. Every student in this book is very unique, and their circumstances were really interesting to me. And there's always something about them that made them succeed. I wanted to show Zane as he was the person that on paper you would say this is absolutely the perfect student. His GPA was on point. He's winning wrestling awards and academic awards in the same month. I mean, that's crazy and unheard of. He was the first state qualifier I ever coached. So, it was just, for me, I'm like, this kid is perfect. And not just by my definition, which you obviously know, but just anyone's definition, he would fit it. And I wanted to ask him, how did you maintain it? How did you deal with that constant pressure? How did you not have the slip up that so many students have? And that's really what I wanted to tap into, because when you read his chapter, you're going to see Zane could really be anybody, right? And anybody could be at the same level that he's at. He faced his own difficulties. He faced a lot of adversity, right? But he found his own path. And because he found it so early and he stayed so committed to it, he was able to achieve so much more than what I've even been able to achieve in my own life. He's already getting there in his early 20s. So, I'm just fascinated to see where he's going to end up. But I wanted to show that, like, even for the kid that you would define as perfect in a traditional setting, their story is not necessarily traditional. And their story is not so easy. It's complex as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And Zane, what would you say to, so I can't imagine the amount of pressure that comes along with being that successful. I mean, honestly, because I was actually kind of laughing, just thinking to myself as listening to you speak, that I was so proud of my daughter because she just graduated 3 months early just from high school, not necessarily like, with an extra degree and stuff like that. And I thought about how much, by all accounts, my daughter is a pretty successful student. She was president National Honor Society, a part, in musicals, clubs, like all of those types of things. And I know how much pressure she was under to maintain that level of, just success, I guess. How I can't imagine what you were under. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I think you bring up some excellent points. But I think the golden word is definitely pressure. When I was reading the final product that Coach Leichtman had brought to me, he had mentioned something along the lines of, like, when I woke up in the morning, like, only I knew how hard or difficult it was to carry on and continue being optimal and consistent with my behavior and whatnot. And the goal for me has always been the same, to be the best possible version of yourself, right? You wake up in the morning and I just want to do things. I want to do great things. I want to make waves in the world. And so I actually think the best way to do that was pressure. I loved it. I think that thriving under the pressure is a really key terminology for me. It's one of those things that always comes with a kind of negative connotation. And I want my story to try and change that for a lot of students, because it's truly under pressure. And I always throw around the spirit of competition, that you can, like, find your true self. People say when you back someone into a corner, you don't know what they might do. And I think in a lot of ways that's true. I think if you find your own corner, explore it, go in and see what you can do, see how you come out. You could change. I was watching this in the beginning, and Coach Leichtman was talking about the word perfect. In a lot of ways, a lot of people have different definitions of perfect. And I think that mine is, it's like a cap, right? Perfection, once you declare that you're perfect at something, it's a cap, right? You want to go far and above and beyond that. You want to find, and no one's taught me that better than Coach Leichtman himself. So when I was there, I would wake up, I would enjoy the pressure. I would thrive under it. Big matches with wrestling, big tests in school. It didn't matter. I wanted to rise up to the challenge and prove to not only myself, but just to all of my colleagues that, you can do anything. I led the team of wrestling I believe I was the captain for 3 years. Yep. And there was no other group of people that I would want to make this notion more aware of than my family, my team. If I cracked under pressure, I knew it would be a domino effect. But if I thrived and rose to the occasion, I knew that would be a domino effect. And that's why I try to push for my team every way I knew how.
Don't you get fired up when you hear him?
Zane, will you write a book for me?
I love spending time with him.
Like,
I write a book.
Upcoming motivational speaker.
Talk, buddy. Yeah, you and I, we need to talk.
Absolutely.
That is, I'm so happy, and I mean this in the most authentic sense. I'm so proud of you. You have Dr. Leichtman. You have 3 students who have really done absolutely amazing things. Like I'm so students like the ones that you have had on, who are authentic and who have show us their personalities and who aren't always the most compliant students. Those students are who make me proud to be in education. Yeah. And I hope, I know that you are so proud of working with these students and just being a part of their stories.
Yeah. And it's just, you see, they all belong in a book,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the big deal,
Yeah, absolutely. Celebrated in a book for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So Zane, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us and for spending the time tonight to tell us your story.
Of course, I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you guys so much for having me. I want to say real quickly before I go that you guys being educators on the front line, you make all the difference in the students' lives. A lot of people would be absolutely nowhere without you guys. So thank you so much for the opportunity and for having me and for continuing to spread your message of positivity to people whose hearts it's going to touch and it's going to matter.
Oh, I'm so grateful for you, Zane. Thank you.
So grateful.
Thank you so
And
much.
there's the need for the tissues again. So thank you for that. I thought I was going to make it the whole rest of the time.
I warned you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Zane. Have a good night.
Have a great one, you guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care, buddy.
Oh my goodness. Seriously.
I'm sorry. They're amazing. I don't know what to tell you.
They are absolutely amazing.
They're going to live up to that name, Perfect 10.
Yeah. They already have. That is so awesome. And the comments, and I know you can't see all of the comments on the social medias, but the whole time the comments have just been going crazy for you and for the students, saying that they love everything that they've said. They love, that you have written this book about perfection and what that looks like or doesn't look like in students. And I would just want to take a minute too and say thank you so much for taking the time to, recognize the voice, like the true authentic voices of students, just from both EduMatch Publishing, because that's always who I represent, but also just from me as an educator. I really appreciate the book that you've written.
Thank you. And I mean, the honor is all mine. You see, just talking to these young men and women, I've learned so much about myself as an educator, as a human being, as a father. Mine are little, but they're going to be at their age at some point. And now I've seen this is what perfect can look like. And I don't have to push my view of it onto my kids. I can just build up their strengths and cheer them on and encourage them. So I owe a lot of that to these students, and I'm so thankful for them.
Yeah, that is awesome. Oh my gosh, I can't, this hour always goes so quickly. And so we have, I think a really fun part of what we do in this hour, and that is picking 2 winners for your books. Are you going to do 2 or 3 winners? Which would you like?
I would like 3. Why not?
3? Okay.
Yeah,
of course.
we could
Let's
do 3.
3. It's a Sunday. They just spent it with
it's a good day.
like 3 winners, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful for everyone that showed up. Thank you all for being here. Let's get some prizes going.
All right, let's get going. So how this is going to work is I am just going to scroll and you're going to tell me to stop. And the person at the top of my screen is the person who wins. So I'm scrolling.
And stop.
Anna Savino.
Oh, she'll be happy. She's awesome.
She's been commenting the whole time. I was actually hoping she would win because she's been like participating the whole time. So Anna is 1. Okay, I'm going to keep going.
And stop.
It's Anna again. So this would be the second one down is Nicole. So she actually purchased a copy. So maybe you can give
bonus
her one.
copy.
So, yeah, she can. She'll keep your signed one, and then she can give her copy to someone else for them to read. So then one more time.
And stop.
Sarah, Jody Piccolo. So is that Justin?
That's Justin's mom. Yeah.
Justin's mom.
Yeah.
All right. So Jody gets her own copy then as well. So
awesome.
If you 3 could please contact Kevin, and you can do it through his. Let me get his website up here. I'm assuming they can contact you through your website and
sure.
And get you their information. So Kevin will wait for you to contact him, and he will sign those copies for you and then get them out to you so that you can read his absolutely amazing book and tell all your friends about it as well. So, Kevin, thank you so much for everything tonight, for, authoring this amazing book, for all of your information, for your motivation, and, for the awesome authors read, bringing your students on. I mean, all the things. I had a wonderful time tonight. So thank you so much for allowing me to do this for you.
Yeah. And if I can say, I'm so grateful to you and EduMatch, Dr. Thomas in the comments. Thank you so much. You guys gave me a great opportunity here, and you gave my students a great opportunity. And none of that would be possible without EduMatch. So I'm just so grateful that we're all here together doing this, and very excited to keep moving forward with it and see how many hands we can get this book into. I'm so thrilled for them and for all of us. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are interested in bulk copies of Kevin's book, The Perfect 10, you can email Sarah Thomas at edumatchbooks@edumatchers.org. We give discounts at only 10 books. And so you can already, you can purchase in bulk at 10 or more books, and we give discounts for even that little tiny amount. So you can do that get directly through Sarah. Again, that's Sarah Thomas at edumatchbooks@edumatchers.org. And we will actually be back in a couple nights for a book birthday party. So we will be celebrating Kyle Anderson's book birthday in a couple nights. So please watch for that. And we hope it is a good one. And we hope everybody has an amazing night. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you all.